Today's episode is brought to you by Musical Theater Radio's merch store. Looking for that perfect gift for someone or just want to treat yourself to some great musical theater themed merch? Head to musicaltheaterradio.com and click on the All Things Theater button on the homepage and check out all the different designs available. And now, today's interview. Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. Today is another Discover a New Musical edition where you, the listener, and me, the host, get to learn about a new show together. Today's discovery is the rise and fall of Vinnie and Paul. Van Gogh's house share with Paul Gauguin started as an artistic bromance, but after only 8 weeks, it ended in a bloodbath. Vincent threatened Paul with a razor, then cut off his own ear. Why? This electrifying two-man rock musical argues that Vincent fell unexpectedly in love with Paul, only to be cruelly rejected. Today, to tell us a little bit more about the show and about the upcoming London production in April of 2025 is the show's creator, Neil Bastian. Neil, hello and welcome.
Jean-Paul, thank you for the invite. Hello to you too.
Fantastic.
Hi from sunny West London.
It's early and cloudy here in Toronto.
Okay, it's noon in London.
I will trade you. So before we get talking about the show, we want to get to know you a little bit better. So I always ask my guests for a 30-second bio. So the question is, who's Neil in 30 seconds?
I am a Welsh musical theatre writer who started writing musical theatre quite late in life, quite unexpectedly, by accident. A friend asked me to write lyrics for one of his songs. And when I was writing the lyrics, all these melodies started popping into my head. So I just got the bug quite out of the blue. I didn't expect it, but I love it. And it's my passion. And I'm really thrilled that we're getting a run of our show, The Rise and Fall of Vinnie and Paul, in London this April.
That's fantastic. So I'm curious. Now, you said you started a little bit later in life with musical theater. Were you interested at all when you were younger in musical theater?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I was more of a general theatre nerd than a fully fledged, like, eating up every single cast album kind of musical theatre nerd. I had all the famous musicals I knew, like Cabaret and Grease. Jesus Christ Superstar, I was a massive fan of since I was a kid because my parents had the original cast album. I remember buying my mother the London cast recording of Follies. I think it was for her 40th birthday, which had a massive silver gatefold sleeve. So I was like a theatre nerd, but I loved musicals, but I wasn't like I didn't know much Stephen Sondheim, only like famous stuff like Sweeney Todd. So I was like, I dipped in and out of it, but very much a fan. And I used to go and see plays as well. But as I got into writing musicals, that now I barely go to see any plays anymore because I'm obsessed with musical theatre. So it sort of developed into an obsession since I became a writer.
Nice. I'm always curious also. You obviously ended up in theater and doing stuff in the arts, but was there ever at any point you thought about maybe going off in a different direction? In a parallel universe, would Neil be going into the arts, but what else would he be done? Was there another vocation you thought about?
Yes, there was actually. I actually studied in art college to do film and television as a director. When I was a teenager, I wanted to be a film director. That's what I wanted to be. So I studied that in my early 20s. And it was really hard I don't know, it was a very hard industry to get into. I ended up in editing, and the work-life balance was so horrendous. I was editing for television that like every night you had to work till 9 o'clock at night. You had to work on weekends. It was like, there was broadcast deadlines looming. They were immovable. So the work-life balance was just so bad and I think to be a film director, you have to have a certain character that I just didn't have at that age when I was younger. I think I'm more determined now that I really know what I'm capable of and what I can do. But then I think you have to be such a steely kind of character with total resilience and you know, and I don't think I had that back then. So I just didn't have what it took to be a film director, even though I loved films. But yeah, so that was my initial, teenage dream to be a film director. But I'm very happy to have ended up being a musical theatre writer. In fact, I wish I'd thought about it sooner, but never too late.
Exactly. There's no age limit on writing theater. Because
No.
as a side note, I interviewed a gentleman 3 or 4 years ago who didn't
Yeah.
start writing his first musical till he was like 65.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, but he was also in, oh man, I'm trying to remember a big famous band, and he was in the movie Spinal Tap and things like that. So
All
I'm
right.
trying to remember. He wrote this great musical. But yeah,
Yeah.
any age, start at 5 to 85. You're right.
Yeah.
Do it
Yeah.
at any point. But I digress. Let's talk more about you and your show. Let's talk about the rise and fall of Vinnie and Paul. Tell us what was the impetus for writing the show in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I've been writing musicals for about 10 years, nearly, and I'd been working with some singers on some demos. There's one guy called Charlie McCullough and another guy called Max Alexander Taylor. And within a space of a few months, I worked with them both accidentally. I mean, it happens like this, it seems, in theatre. Like there was this Christmas song concert that one of my songs was in, and I got assigned a singer who was Charlie McCullough. I didn't know him. And then this other little event that I was doing a few months later, I wanted a particular singer called Jordan Castle, but he couldn't make it because of his job that he was on. So I said, "Can you recommend a friend?" And he said, "Max Alexander Taylor." So both Charlie and Max blew my socks off. They're such brilliant singers. And then I found out through chatting to Max that he went to college to a drama school or whatever you call it, university, whatever you call it, with Charlie in the same year.
Oh,
So I put them together very much in my head, and then I just thought, oh my God, imagine their voices blending. They've got such thrilling tenor voices. I thought, and I've said this elsewhere, but I had this phrase in my head, ABBA for blokes. Because you know the way that Anna Fried and Agnetha's voices blend in this wonderful way,
yeah.
this seamless way. I just thought, oh, their voices are going to be like that, and they were. So basically, it was like I've got to find something to write for two men.
Mhm.
What is it? What am I going to write? So that was the impetus. Not I didn't think I must write a story about Van Gogh. So what I did was did an internet search for I think the search term was something like male friendships or historical male friendships, something like that. And there was a list, and then I saw Van Gogh and Paul Gauguin in the list, and I remembered the whole story of them from my school days because I did A-level art history, and I thought, oh my God, this is a musical theatre piece because it's high passion, you know, people in conflict in a sort of in a claustrophobic space. There's lots to sing about, and then the idea of Vincent falling in love with Paul came to me when reading the letters of Vincent van Gogh because I started researching then, and there's a few letters. Well, try when Van Gogh tried to get Paul Gauguin down to live with him in Arles in his little yellow house. The letters were so hero worshipy. They were sort of like quite intense. And then after the disastrous house share, where he ended up cutting his ear off after only 8 weeks, Paul fled, but they still kept in touch. They never ever met again. But as soon as he fled and Vincent recovered from his injury, he sent Paul a letter saying, when you get back to Paris, please don't speak badly of what happened in our little yellow house. And the phrase, our little yellow house, just seemed such a tender phrase that a lover might say. So it sort of spiraled from that letter. And, there are loads of different arguments as to why Van Gogh cut his ear off. You know, there's one that he was thinking himself as a defeated bull fighting contest, where the matadors chop off the ear of the bull and give it to the prettiest girl in the audience because he gave his ear to a sex worker. Uh, People all know he cut his ear off. Not as many people know that he gave his ear to a sex worker after he cut it off. So I explain that as well in the show. I won't give everything away, but yeah. So yeah, that's why. So it was like I want to write a show for these two amazing singers. What subject matter can I find? And that's how I ended up doing it. And then I fell in love with the subject matter, and I just, so that's how it started.
That's an interesting way to start a show. It's
Yeah,
kind of reversed.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
very cool. And it's not
yeah,
even just finding, for one person, you had to find two incredible singers,
yeah,
parts that so very
yeah,
interesting. Very cool.
yeah. Thanks.
Um,
Yeah.
Before we talk more about the show, I'd love to know more about your writing style. Like
Okay.
as a creator, how do you go about it? Do you find yourself writing music first, lyrics first? Do you, I guess depending on the situation, what do you
Yeah.
find, more comfortable writing? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely do the lyrics first, but just the core hook phrase. So if I think about like there's a song in the show called Wheatfield with Crows, for example, which is one of the title of one of Van Gogh's paintings. So I will think of what the most naturalistic way of singing that phrase is. Like I always very, very stringently try to stick to a rhythm that is natural. You would speak the words in that rhythm. So Wheatfield with Crows, da 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 da. I will always, I will, and then I'll start to get a melody from that. Then, so I don't, I don't think I've got anything. Levothyroid. I'm picking up a packet of tablets. I've got a thyroid condition, so levothyroxine, 50 micrograms, right? Levothyroxine. I mean, you've got to. It almost comes from just the way that you say.
Yeah.
Um, that's a terrible song that I will never put in a show. But I'm trying to think of something better.
I was
Uh,
thinking that was going to be your next musical, and we just birthed it
yeah,
here on the show.
yeah, yeah,
And you've got a
yeah.
built-in sponsor. So
Yeah. So yeah, it's just so the melody bubbles up from the natural cadences of the spoken lyric.
Mhm.
So and then I use rhyme zone to obviously I'll know what the subject matter is about. So Wheatfield with Crows, for example, is about he has these nightmares in my show, which are a premonition of his own final painting, and he killed himself in a wheat field. So he shot himself in a wheat field. So this dark song is uh, it bubbles up from for example, in that case, another bad dream. So he has like the rule of threes in drama. He has two scenes where he wakes up screaming. Then the third scene, we find out why he's waking up screaming. So the first line is another bad dream, another crazy nightmare. And it just kind of bubbles up. It kind of the lyrics come first, but almost immediately the melody is suggested by the spoken rhythm of the lyric. So yeah, that's
nice.
kind of like that.
Okay. Well, I'd love to hear the history of the show. When did you start writing it, and the production history?
Oh
How it's
right, yeah,
progressed up to the production end of it.
yeah, yeah. I started writing it in the pandemic. I remember it was very snowy. I think it was January 2020, maybe. Was that the first? Anyway, it was about nearly 5 years ago, I think. Or maybe it was 2021. No, it was probably 2021. And I remember walking around the streets of Greenford, where I live in West London, listening back to my demos in the snow. I remember I make my own demos with just a guitar, and then I send them to the singers. Uh, and so I started writing it in a burst because we were in the pandemic, so we were stuck at home more, so there was more time to write. And and B, I still had my day job, so I could still make a living, but I could be at home more and stuff. So it was just a matter of and a very writing the list of songs first, or not first, just writing the songs that occurred to me that might happen in the show. I didn't have a book. In fact, I've never really written a show with a book. I sort of get a cluster of songs, and some people might say, well, that's a waste of time, because what if some of the songs get chucked out? It's just like, because I find songwriting so enjoyable, it doesn't feel like a waste of time, you know? So there's tons of songs that I've written for this show now, but lots of them are already cut. But yeah, I just sort of get this big mass of songs for tent poles in the show that I think are going to happen, and then I start writing the book then around the songs, and then I think, oh, actually, this song is redundant now. We need another one. So yeah, so that was about 4 years ago, and then I had savings, so I managed to make a demo album with Max and Charlie of about 20 songs and put it on SoundCloud. And then I started hawking it around all the producers in London and Britain. Um, it's really hard to get heard. It's really quite hard to get heard. I mean, we were lucky. I say we, I wrote it, but I think of it as we because
Yeah.
Max and Charlie have been involved since the beginning. Um, we were lucky to get nominated for a few prizes, the Stiles and Drewe Best New Song Prize, and the Stiles and Drewe Mentorship Award, which is for the whole show. So we got nominated, which is a really massive honor. But still, I couldn't get a producer interested for about 2.5 years. And then this January, I was in an open mic night and I sang a new song from Vinnie and Paul at the open mic night. And this guy was at my table with his wife Emma. This guy called Jonathan said, "Oh, I think I saw you at the Stiles and Drewe Prize about 2 years ago. You had that Wheatfield song." And I said, "Yes, I was. That was me." and 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 yeah, I'm putting a show on in a few months, but I haven't got a producer and I haven't got any money, but I'm gonna have to do crowdfunding. And he said, "Oh, interesting." Then 2 days later, he contacted me and said, "Neil, I've always wanted to produce a show. I work in theatre as a automation guy. He automates all the scenery and that's his job. But he said, I've always wanted to be a producer. I really liked your song on Monday night. I liked that song at the Stiles and Drewe Prize. So I listened to all the songs and I want to produce this show for your run coming up in April." And I was just like, you could have knocked me off a log, if that's the
Yeah.
phrase. It was just like after banging on doors for 2.5 years, someone was banging on my door, and it was absolutely fantastic feeling that somebody was had faith in the project. So yeah, Jonathan Harrison Walsh is producing it. It's his first production, and he's brilliant. He's so fantastic. So yeah, we our show opens on the 16th of April in a venue called the Glitch in Waterloo for 2 weeks. And the show is written to be a 2 hour tragedy. The Glitch offered me the space. That was another really nice little development. The Glitch were advertising for their spring season, and I sent it in. That was the first stroke of luck. They said, "We want you for a slot. We want your show for a 2 week slot."
Wow.
But our slots are only an hour. And I thought, oh shit, my show's a 2 hour show. So
Yeah.
the big challenge has been reducing a 2 hour tragedy into 1 hour. So whoever comes, and I hope you will all come, uh, you will be seeing a 1 hour version of a tragedy. So I, I, I'm trying my best to make it the best 1 hour tragedy I can. But I would definitely say it's a stepping stone, hopefully, to a fuller version
Mhm.
down the line. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I've loved every second of it.
Well,
Absolutely.
congratulations on the journey and getting it from, where it was to where it is and getting it that production in
Thanks, Jean Paul.
a couple of months. No, next month.
Yeah, next
Depends on
month.
when.
Yeah, the 16th of April it starts.
Wow, that's incredible. I'd
Yeah,
love to hear. And I ask this of writers because, talking about songwriting their songs, was there
yeah.
one that just flowed so easily out of you that you just went, "Oh wow, where'd this come from?" But this came out so easily. And then was there another one that just drove you insane that you just couldn't figure out how I'm
Yeah,
gonna get this to work? And I'd love to hear
yeah, I
about those.
definitely relate to both of those things. Absolutely. Yeah, I would say that in this show, Wheatfield with Crows was came out really easily. I don't know. I don't really know why things come easily sometimes. Like the lyric just came really easily with only a few edits.
Yeah.
And the melody just seemed to tumble out. Yeah, it is mysterious, isn't it? Because you write as well, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's just like, and there are other songs. Let me think. There's a song called Paint a Pretty Picture, which I really, really, really like, but I cannot seem to finish it. I've tried. I can't find the development in the second half of the song that that works yet. I'm
Yeah.
determined to finish it because I think it's at the moment in the 1 hour version, what is covered by that would have been covered by that song is just done in dialogue as a briefer exchange, but it really needs to be a song. But I
Mhm.
cannot for the life of me get the second half sorted. And again, I can't quite explain why. Um,
Yeah, I get it.
because melodies, I think melodies are usually the easiest thing. But on this one, I don't know. I feel it needs to go somewhere else melodically, but I can't get that to that place in the melody. I just can't seem to get there in a satisfying way. So, yeah, what about you?
Oh
Is
yeah.
there any humdingers that you've come up with that just dropped into your lap?
Oh, yeah. I've one of the songs I wrote while I was sitting in university, sitting in class. I should have been paying attention, but no, I just wrote it the lyrics. They just flowed right out of me. And then I went
Yeah,
home and wrote it. And yeah,
yeah.
it's why or how, who knows? But it
I
just
know it's
comes
weird, isn't
out.
it?
But the difficult ones sometimes,
Yeah,
I have no doubt many listeners are going, "Yup, been there,
yeah,
still there" on a number of
yeah,
songs, just
yeah.
trying to figure out why.
Yeah, I heard an interview with Paul Simon, and he was saying that Bridge Over Troubled Water, it took him like he had half of it, but he couldn't finish it for ages.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was like a year or 2 years between the start of writing it,
Wow.
but he could not finish it. And obviously everyone loves it. It's a great song.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I wish they're all fall in our laps easily, but they don't. So um, it's all
Well,
part of the fun.
I'd love to hear it because you said your two performers have been with you and obviously
Yeah,
since the beginning. What kind of input have they had? When you write a song and you get it from their perspective, when they
yeah,
perform it, um, how has that experience been? Hearing your words out of your head, out of their mouths, and how
yes.
that's changed things.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely wonderful to get because I can sing with enthusiasm, but I haven't got a very pretty sounding voice. They've both got beautiful tone. Their tone is beautiful in different ways, and their technique and the notes they can reach. So what I do is I make my own guitar demos and I listen to those my over and over again. I think, oh, this bit's getting boring. I need to rewrite this bit. So I might rewrite something 4 times while listening to my own voice. So when I first do a song, I'm very used to my own voice singing it. So the first time I got demos back from Max and Charlie, it was like, I remember they sent about two each on one Thursday, and it just knocked my socks off. These are just absolutely brilliant singers. It was just thrilling to hear the songs come from with their voices because they've got such wonderful voices. And yes, they do bring a lot to the table because apart from being brilliant singers, they have lots of ideas dramatically, and and they do, they improvise as well. So, like for example, in Sunflower Power, the opening number, there's a sort of little bit at the end. There's a little quote, there's a little joke in the opening number. It goes, "Everything's coming up sunflowers now for me and for you," right? Which is obviously a joke about Gypsy. But so the melody goes, "Everything's coming up sunflowers now for me and you." That's what was written. But Max can sing like he can just go stratospheric. So he improvised. I'm not going to do it
Yeah.
because it just sounds shit if I do it. Excuse my language. Um, but if you listen to the demo, he just goes like, "Woo!" He just
Yeah.
goes super high. Charlie as well. He can sing even higher than Max, I think. But yeah, also dramatically, for example, in our first suite of demos, in the first suite of demos for Vinnie and Paul, Paul is a bit more of a cartoony villain. I mean, it's a bit extreme to call him cartoony, but he's a bit one-dimensional in in the demos that are mainly online.
Mhm.
But then, so after we'd done them, and maybe a year had passed, Charlie said, "Oh, I've been listening to the demos. So, what do you think about making Paul a bit more of an arc for Paul?" And with his input,
Mhm.
we just had some back and forth discussions, and yeah, I've rewritten Paul to be a more interesting character who's more complicated now, rather than just being someone who's creaming it off the Van Goghs. Because basically, he was being paid to be there. His bed and board was being paid.
Mhm.
So in the first draft, he's like, "Ha ha ha! I can just go down there and ride this gravy train until it suits me," kind of thing. In this one, he's like, "Oh, I don't want to go. I don't really want to go down there. I don't know the guy very well, but I'm skint. I'm going to have to do this because I haven't sold any paintings." He's a more conflicted, interesting character,
Mhm.
and he brings a lot of baggage about his wife. He split up from his wife in real life and left his family behind.
Mhm.
So that's addressed in this show as well. Um, so yeah, working with singers, actors is just brings a whole level of depth to it. So I'm really looking forward to getting in the rehearsal room. And and even though Charlie can't do this run of the show because he's got another job, which I don't think has been announced yet, but unfortunately he's got another job. But all is well because we've got another incredible singer called Nicholas Carter,
Mhm.
who is absolutely brilliant. His voice is just. I'm so excited now to share his voice with Max. Max is harmonizing because Max is available, so he is in this run. So Nicholas Carter's brilliant. He's sung a couple of songs of mine in the past, and he is he's got like this. He's got an almost operatic sort of vibe to his voice, which is going to be really interesting to see that alongside Max's more rocky vibe. I mean, maybe Nick will decide to do a rocky vibe. I don't know, but because he's done a lot of concerts, I've only heard his more legit vibe. But he might rock out. I don't know. We haven't started rehearsing yet, but he's absolutely fantastic. So very excited to be working with him.
That's fantastic. Congratulations, Neil, on everything. So let's get to the important part. How do people get tickets to the show?
Ah,
The websites, the socials about yourself. How do people learn more about the show? All this stuff.
yeah, yeah. The most easy to remember URL is vangoghmusical.co.uk. vangoghmusical.co.uk. And that will get you to the website. You can hear all the demos. You can book. There's a ticket booking there. But a button right at the top. You can go to the booking page. You can watch videos of Max and Charlie. You can listen to the whole concept album. You can see industry opinions about the show. So there's everything's on that website that you need. And the first thing you see is the book tickets button. So it's really easy. And I'm on Instagram as neil.bastian.music. And the show is on there, Vinny underscore and underscore Paul underscore musical. trips off the tongue, doesn't it?
I know.
Um, uh, so yeah, you'll be able to find me, Neil Bastian, on Instagram. You find me. So yeah, very very excited to get it on the stage at last. It's in a very small venue, so it's going to sell out quickly. So please get your tickets as soon as you can, because there's only 55 seats. We've got 14 performances, so it's only there for 2 weeks. So get your tickets now.
Very nice. Very nice. I know you're busy with this, but is there anything else you're working on that you want to promote or just let people know about?
Yeah, I've got another show called The Mayfly Man,
Mhm.
which is in development. Last year it had a workshop with British Youth Musical Theatre, which was absolutely brilliant fun. It's a show about a little boy that grows up from birth to old age in the space of a single day.
Hmm.
So, like a mayfly, his lifespan is 1 day only. He ages like in front of his parents' eyes. By lunchtime, he's like teenage, and he's just getting older and older in front of their eyes. So it's all about them trying to give him a decent life in 1 day. So yeah, I've been loving writing that over the past few years. It's based on a novel that I wrote and self-published a long time ago. That's a lovely contrast to Vinnie and Paul because it's a big cast show. Like the whole town is involved, the whole world is involved in the end because his story is like it is spreads on social media and everyone wants to help. Basically, there's a cure for his condition that
Yeah.
emerges in the middle of the day. So everyone's trying to get the man who knows how to cure him, but the man is in a van driving east, but he's got his phone switched off, so he doesn't know that he's the most important man in the world today. So it's all about it becomes a chase in the second act. Yeah, so I love writing that one, and I've got another show on the back burner called Force 10 Gayle, which is an adoption story set in the world of like cabaret, well, no, superstar kind of singers like Shirley Bassey, Barbara Streisand kind of singer who gave up her son for adoption early in her career, then tries to get back in touch with him in later life. So that is on the back burner, but I want to get some proper demos done for there's two female. Another thing that I like, another contrast with Vinnie and Paul is that this is two female and middle-aged singer. It needs two like 50-something
Hmm.
female singers. So I love the contrast of that. And I'm so after this Vinnie and Paul run, I'm determined to get some funding to make like a handful of demos with some fantastic 50-something singers of Gayle and Susie, who's the adoptive mother, who's the biggest fan in the world of Gayle Bailey, who's the singer. So it's basically suddenly her favorite singer in the world is suddenly a threat because she wants her son, and the son doesn't know he's adopted.
Yeah.
So it's a family drama set in the world of superstar singers. But the adoptive mother is not a superstar singer. She's a supermarket worker. So it's like yeah. I love writing that show. That's the first one I ever wrote, but it needs some beefy demos now, that one.
There's always something to do, isn't there? Even when you
Yeah.
got something going, you got something hot going on with Vinny and Paul. But there's always something percolating in the back, and that's
Yeah.
awesome to hear that
Yeah.
you're still busy and keeping things going. Neil, thank you so much for coming on today,
My pleasure.
and introducing myself and the world to you, your works, and of course the upcoming production in April. And all the best with everything. And if you ever need anything, anything to promote, just let me know. We'll come back on. We'll throw that out there, and we'll get more
Oh,
people to
thank
know
you, Jean
about you and your
Paul. It's been
works.
so lovely chatting to you. Thanks for the slot. I really appreciate it.
Not a
And yeah,
problem.
happy writing to you too.
Thank you. It's yeah, it's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is, but we love it.
Awesome. All right. So we were just speaking with Neil Bastian, the creator of The Rise and Fall of Vinnie and Paul, which in 2025 of April in London. If you are there, go see it. I know it's a 2 week run. It's only a small theater, but get your tickets now. Make sure you check that out and always support new works because everybody loves the classics, but today's new works are tomorrow's classics. So don't forget that. So always check out and support new works. All right, tune in next week as we speak with another guest or guests about their life, love, and passion that is musical theater. I am your host, as always, Jean Paul Jovanoff, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.